doing this video as a response to one of my previous videos that I did, which I'll put a link in the description or something somewhere. Put it somewhere. Anyway, I was talking about when God told Moses to take his shoes off because where he was standing was holy ground. So I'd mentioned in there that God had Moses take his shoes off because he wasn't going to allow Moses to bring anything common or dirty onto the place where he was now, where it was now holy ground. Sorry, I'm making all my little adjustments here for my mic and everything. So anyway, so the question came. Okay, well, I know because it was holy ground, but why was that a thing? Why was Moses commanded to take his shoes off? And of course, that wasn't the only place in Scripture where we saw that. When the angel came to Joshua, he told Joshua to remove his shoes as well. So I dug a little bit deeper and did a little bit more research to find out what the shoes meant back in those ancient times. Why was that a thing? So let's delve in just for a few minutes and find out a couple of different reasons why. And it could be multiple reasons that God could have been dealing with every one of these reasons, or just one of them, or he could have been dealing with a couple of them at the same time. But I tend to think that because God is a multifaceted God, that he was probably dealing with a lot of these outlooks all at the same time. So, removing his shoes, Moses was showing respect and submission to God. God was teaching him who he was and why he, Moses, needed to submit. Moses didn't know who God was at that time. Remember, Moses had been raised in an Egyptian household, and he knew all the Egyptian gods, and maybe he knew of the God of the Israelites, but he had never been introduced to the God of his fathers. That's why when God came to him, he said, I am the God of your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So anyway, so God had to introduce himself to him, and he had to show him that he was God. But he also, in that, because Moses didn't realize who he was dealing with, he was saying, I'm not just a God like any other of these Egyptian gods or all these false gods. I am the God. I am the only God. And my presence is holy, and I need you to submit. This is God having a teaching moment with Moses, saying, hey, I require all of my people to submit to my authority and my rule, because I have a standard that's up here. And I want to bless you, and I want to move in your life. And I don't want anything to be hindered. I don't want my power to be hindered, because the things that I'm getting ready to do in your life, the things I'm getting ready to use you to do, the places I'm calling you to, require you to come into deeper places in me in order to achieve it. I have to be able to trust you, Moses, with my power and the level of power I'm getting ready to move through you. I'm getting ready to show myself to my people through you. So I need you to be completely submitted to my will and my word and who I am. I am King of Kings. I have put you, talking about humanity. Remember, we go back to Genesis, and God gave humans, us, Adam and Eve, and all of our descendants, he gave us dominion over the earth. He gave us dominion over everything that creeps on the ground, everything that flies in the air, and everything that swims in the sea. So we are kings, if so to speak. We're kings and lords over the earth. So that's why God has identified himself as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So he's saying, I need you, even though you have dominion over this earth, I have dominion over you. So I need you to understand, you need to submit to me so that I can then use you and be able to flow my power through you, because only a life that's completely submitted to God can his power and his spirit flow through unhindered. Okay, so that's one reason. Another one, it has been believed by some scholars that putting off of one's shoes signified putting off contamination and unholy things when coming into a holy place. One example is when the priests would enter into the temple, they would remove their shoes. Moses was of the bloodline of the Levite tribe, which were the ones chosen by God to be priests. So God was also trying to show Moses who he was. After he was finished in introducing to Moses who God was like, now let me remind you who you are and who you can be through me. I have called your bloodline to be priests and ministers to me in my temple. They're the ones that are qualified to come into my presence on behalf of other people. So Moses, I'm calling you to be not only the leader of the nation of Israel, but I'm also calling you to be their intercessor. I'm also calling you to be the bridge and the medium between me and them. And so I need you submitted to me, but I also need you to come into your calling, because it's in your bloodline that you are to be a priest and a minister unto me. So therefore, now I have to teach you how to be a priest. Well, ladies and gentlemen, are we not called to be priests? We have a high priest, which is Christ, but we're called to be ministers unto God. We are called to be a holy nation and a royal priesthood. We now have a bloodline through Jesus to be priests and ministers unto God. That's why in our prayer life, we should never just sit here and say, God, you're my spiritual Santa Claus, so I need you to bless me. I need you to move over here. I need you to give me this. I need you to give me that. I need you to work this out. No, we're called to be priests, which means we're also called now. We're called to, also make our petitions known to God with thanksgiving and praise, but we are also called to minister unto God. So that means that we are to give something back to him, acknowledge who he is, and just be in awe of his majesty, and to say, Lord, I bless you. Lord, I love you. Lord, I submit myself to you. Father, I worship you, and just come into his presence with thanksgiving and praise and honor and all of these things, not with a laundry list of to-do lists, not with a laundry list of things that I need and I want you to do for me. We never come to God bringing anything except a bunch of problems. We never come to God bringing any praise. We always are saying, well, I praised him because I thanked him for doing this. I thanked him for doing that. Why don't we ever thank him for who he is? Why don't we ever thank him because he's God and because he's worthy of it? We're called to be a priesthood like he was, like Moses was. So God was training Moses who he was and was telling him, I need you to be a priest, pretty much, for the nation of Israel on their behalf. I need someone to stand in the gap, because they don't know how to pray. They don't know all the things that they're guilty of. So I'm going to give you my thoughts and my law, and I need you to stand in the gap. And I need you to minister unto me on their behalf. So understand, Moses was called, but just because he was born, he was called to be a priest. And so God was having to show him who he was. Man, this is good stuff, isn't it? This is awesome. So here's another. In ancient times, shoes represented power and authority. Kings and rulers of high positions would sometimes send leaders of lower hierarchy their shoes to signify their superiority and dominion over them. God was establishing his rule as being supreme. So you have to understand, when God told Moses, remove your shoes, he was saying, I need you to understand something, Moses. I need you to understand that I am not subjected to you, but you are to be subjected to me. I am the ultimate rule, and I have to establish that right off the bat. I don't have time to be second guessed. I don't have time to be questioned. I don't have time for you not to know me in my fullness. I need you to remove those shoes because they are a symbol of your superiority, and I'm trying to show you my superiority. I'm trying to eliminate any question right off the bat of A, who's in charge, B, whose power is more, and C, whose authority is higher. God was establishing his rule right off the bat. So he was showing Moses who he was. He was showing him why he had to be submitted to him. He was teaching Moses who Moses was and who he was born to be and who he was meant to be, and why God saved him from a watery death way back when he was a child, if we read the story of Moses, you already know that the Pharaoh was having every male child under, I think, 2 years and younger killed because they were afraid that the nation of Israel was going to get too much, too powerful, and overtake the Egyptians. So they put to death all the male children in Moses' generation. He was the only one that was saved out of that. So God was saying, Moses, I saved you for such a time as this. I made sure that you lived so that you could now do this, so that you could now be the priest. All your generation was wiped out, but I saved my priests. I saved the one that I needed to stand in the gap. I saved the one who was going to be the next leader spiritually and politically. But even more so than the political side of it, God needed a priest to stand. Before Jesus came in his earthly ministry, God needed somebody. So God chose the Levite crew. And since his whole generation of males were swept into the Nile, God said, I'm always going to have a remnant. I'm never going to let all of my people be completely wiped off the planet. I am always going to win. And it only takes one person. And through that one person, I can save an entire nation. So you have to understand, God said, Moses, this is who I am, but Moses, this is who you are. This is what I can do, and this is what you can do. So I need you to submit to me so that I can do this through you. And I've called you to do that through your bloodline. So I'm going to call you and tell you who you are and who you are in me. Because there's a difference between who you are and who you are in God. There are certain things that God's called you to do simply because you were born and simply because of the bloodline that you came from. But there's a whole different thing when God says, now, if you put me in the midst of it, I can transcend all the mundane. I can transcend and go higher, and I can bring you into a more powerful place, and I can use you on a more global scale. If you let me run through you, if you let my power, my spirit come through you unhindered, which comes through a life completely submitted to him. So submit to me. And let me show you that I'm supreme ruler, your power, your authority, and the power and authority of Pharaoh. So here's part 2 to that. Because Moses was like, but God, the Pharaoh though, he wants to kill me. God said, I am the actual, the literal, and the only ruler, and I'm the only one you should be afraid of. I'm the only one. I'm the one that made you. I'm the one that created everything. So don't be afraid of him. Because I'm telling you, I'm going to move through you with my creative power, and I'm going to do wonders through you that you've never seen. And you see, Moses couldn't wrap his head around it. He couldn't come to grips with it because God was saying, I'm getting ready to do something new. I'm getting ready to do something you've never heard of. I'm getting ready to use you in a way that I've never used anybody else. I can only do that if you listen to me and submit to me and stop being afraid of worldly powers and start harnessing the power of heaven through me. I am the authority, and I can do things this world cannot do. I can do things that nobody can do, and if I'm going to do them through you, then you have to know who I am, you have to submit to me, and you have to stop being afraid of what power they think they have. I am the ultimate authority. Remove your shoes. And also in removing your shoes, you're removing all these mindsets. All the things that these shoes represented to the people of the ancient world, God was saying, I need you to remove your shoes because I'm not dealing so much with the physical shoes, the actual foot coverings. I'm dealing with what those shoes represent, what they mean to you. And I'm trying to get through to all of the generations that follow you guys to say this is a message that's going to echo throughout all of the halls of history, that everything these shoes represented then, everything they represent now, everything they'll ever represent, God says, I'm God above all of it. And not only do you am I dealing with that with the physical shoes, I'm dealing with the mindset that comes with it. I'm trying to change everything about you so that you can have all the shackles off of your mind and realize who I am and realize what I can do through you. So real quick, we're going to come back into our final representations of the shoes here in the ancient world. Shoes also represented your path or direction in life. So what God was telling Moses when he said, take off your shoes, he was telling Moses that his path was about to change. and that he was no longer in control of his own direction. So what God is trying to tell us is, submit yourself to me. I'm going to send you where I need you to be. Don't worry about where you're going to go. Don't worry about where you're going to live. Don't worry about any of that. You just submit to me and let me tell you, and I've got it all worked out. Your direction in life is meaningless if it's not being directed by God. If we're not submitted to his direction, then we're just aimlessly running around in the dark trying to find our path. But God's like, I've already got a path for you. I had this thing mapped out before you were even conceived, before your mama and daddy decided to have you. I already had you mapped out. I already knew where your life was going. Just come to me and get the GPS coordinates because I've got you mapped out, sir, ma'am. So your direction is going to change. It's no longer your own. So check this out. Also, coming underneath someone's shoes back in those times was also a symbol of being in subjection or being identified as a slave. I don't even think I have to expound on that. God said, I'm not subject to anybody or anything, and I'm nobody's slave. So the shoes on your feet that you're getting ready to walk on my ground with, I'm not going to let it ever be said by you or anybody else that God was in subjection to you or that God is a slave to you somehow. But I also want to deal with something that we have in our society. Somehow we have, throughout the halls of our history and time, we have come to believe that God owes us something, that God is only sitting on his throne to answer our whims. Notice I didn't say answer prayers, because I believe there's a difference between prayers, the supplications that we're told to, and the bottles of wine that we keep bringing into God's presence. Oh God. God is obligated to move on his word, not ours. But more than that, even more than that, we think that God is somehow our genie, that we just rub the lamp and pop goes the weasel. Here comes Genie God. Right? I have 3 wishes, God, and if you don't answer them, then I'm just going to be mad at you, and it's all your fault, everything in life that goes wrong. God is not our slave. He's not in subjection to us. So we have to realize that if God chooses not to answer our prayers right away, or if sometimes the answer might be no, then we have to accept it, B, and realize that God is not going to ever do anything to try to harm us or hurt us. It's always with our best in mind. So if the answer is no, it's because he sees a danger in the yes. Or maybe that yes is going to set you on a different path than the one he has for you. So he has to tell you no at this juncture to get you to go the right way. See, we don't ever unlock our mind to think of the possibilities of why was there possibly a no, or why didn't God answer my prayer? Or why didn't he move the way I thought the way I think he should, or the way I expected him to, or blah, 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 and on and on and on and on and on. We go and we whine and we cry and we kick and we scream and we suck our thumbs. We have to trust God. He is King of Kings. He's Lord of Lords, and he's in subjection to no one. So I wanted to kind of make this video real quick because I didn't want anybody to go on with having questions, but also since this was kind of unfolded a little deeper even than what I went into before, even what I knew about, I had to do some more research to find out what all the different symbols meant to the ancient world. It was very interesting. So I wanted to share it with you guys. So I want you to be blessed in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Understand when you go out and do your day that you are ahead and not beneath. You are above only. Oh, I'm sorry. You're the head and not the tail. You are above only, not beneath. And everything that you touch and everything that you do, if you're trusting and living through God, he's going to bless it. And I want you to go take the day by the horns, and I want you to live as if God is living through you, because he is.